Good morning, viewers. Welcome back. You are here with me, your Birdman. We're playing Dwarf Fortress today, but obviously, this is not the Microfort. We're in a different fort today. You can see the corpse pile there on the left. Over on the right, that's actually just a lot of mud. And in the middle is all kinds of garbage. This is Trumpetnut. Let me explain. Back in 2020, when that all went down, I found myself out of work for about 4 months, and one of the, let's call it, projects I took up during that time was an extended after-action report on this fort, which I called the Quarantine Fort, in keeping with the theme of the times. And today we're going to give you a tour of that fort. This is filler! So out here is... oh, what am I doing? Out here is the ground. I'm trying to use my WASDA to navigate the map. This is the area outside the fortress gates where there's been a lot of carnage. We did not cause most of this. This has been almost exclusively others fighting when they arrive on the map. Like, there are some merchant corpses out here and a bunch of invaders fighting with wildlife. So let me tell you what's going on here. We did a little bit of role-playing on this one. Again, in keeping with the style of the times, there was a virulent plague sweeping the planet. We blamed elves. And so we withdrew some of our most promising dwarves into this fortress. We'll go down and look at the actual fortress here. Here's the deal. This over here is the quarantine. You see, we have a main gate here on the right, and a secondary gate here on the left, and in between them is an airlock system, controlled by 2 levers which can only be activated from inside. The idea is, our starting group of 7 dwarves dug this all out to be this is the original main fort, and we'll go downstairs in a bit. And every other dwarf that showed up would have to go into quarantine over here, so they'd come in this way. I think you can see my cursor. And we had some bedrooms over here. Offices for... we ended up with nobles in the quarantine, of course. So they had to have offices. Here's the cemetery. Well, the mausoleum, I guess, for those that died in quarantine. Here's their dining hall and storage chambers. They would spend 1 calendar year in the quarantine, and then enter the airlock, and then step out of the airlock into the main fort. And I'm still trying to use WASDA to move the map. Okay, this over here is the trade entrance. We only allowed dwarves from we only allowed our own dwarven caravans in here. Nobody else got to enter the trade depot because they were, probably agents of the elves trying to spread plague. So we'll just go through this a bit at a time. Over here is our Great Olm breeding facility. We use them for leather and meat. It's been very profitable. We have a barracks here, right next to the main entrance. Over here, I don't even remember what this is. It's been a while since I looked at this, but we have like our jeweling shops here. I think just because I didn't have anywhere else to put them. And over here is storage for the trade depot, our gardens, and of course, our pig pen. This was our original source of food, but we don't use them so much anymore. We use the boar leather, but if we look here, we have 26,953 other items, which is mostly these 19,000 prepared meals. See, if you watched the Microfort, then you remember I said something about food being an easy way to break the game's economy, and this is what I'm talking about. This is easy to do. And it's mostly masterpiece roasts. We want for nothing. Look at all that created wealth. We're constantly under siege here. Saxzula Shloom, Trumpetnut. And we are the mountain home. Our queen, Sarvesh, where is she? Sarvesh, our queen. Moody for a while. I feel so good. She feels euphoric due to inebriation. She is content after having a pretty decent drink. Yes. There are some interesting things here that I will walk you through. Oh yes, here is our grizzly bear breeding area for our ward grizzlies. And you can see all these crocodiles walking through here. We use them for meat and leather as well. Much exotic leather. Let's see, what are these? These are the nest boxes? No, these are just display pedestals, where we display cave crocodile skull totems. A lot of decorative items here. Moving down. Into the main fort. Oh boy, where do we even start? Let's just go left to right, top to bottom. Here's our museum. In the museum we have many, many artifacts. So many artifacts. Let's look at a few of them. Some of these were brought in. Here is Languished Blots, a bismuth bronze short sword, which has 6 kills to its name, including a giantess. I remember that. No, pardon me, the giantess is who we took the sword off of, that's right. Lanced taxes. Yeah, that was annoying. Okay. It's not a very interesting sword. Here's a copper warhammer. I would have this stuff... Wait, is that the same giantess? Is that right? Yeah, okay, that's right. She had a hammer in one hand and a sword in the other. Bismuth bronze battle axe. I would put these things on... equip them to the militia, that's the word I'm looking for, but they're not great weapons. Anyway, we got a lot of these over here. Cave swallows were also breeding, because we didn't have enough animals. I think some of this is just like masterpiece items that we've crafted. Yeah, over here. Look at this. Highly decorated sow skull totem, muskox bone bracelet, crown. Some of this is just nice stuff. Here's our library, where if we're not careful, our dwarves will spend all their time. Let's just grab a book at random and see what we got here. A treatise on the mountain home. That's us at this point. Okay, Pigtail Choir. Written on the item is a guide entitled A Treatise on the Mountain Home, authored by Catton Evenmirrored. It concerns the fortress Chew Arrow, which is, I think, one of our fallen fortresses. The writing is reasonably serious. Overall, the prose is not awful, but not very good either. And that is an apt description for most of the tomes in our library. Not a lot of people hanging out in here right now, but I have had times where basically our entire labor force was hanging out right here. And next to them, these are the noble offices. Outpost liaison, militia commander, the mayor, the manager, and so on, captain of the guard. Right underneath them is their paired bedroom and dining room areas. Over here is the rank and file 3x3 chambers for the rest of the fortress. I think some of these are set as inn rooms, not that we have an inn yet, because of course we're still actively under quarantine. You notice how everything except the merchant gate is open, and these should be locked. Yes, these are locked. Why are they pet passable? There we go. We don't want the animals going outside either. These are staying closed. I forget where exactly we are, but basically we got our 200 dwarves inside. Obviously, some of them have died because we're at 177 right now, but we had 200 dwarves in the fort. I believe those were the victims of a tantrum spiral. And then once we got our 200 safe dwarves out of quarantine into the fortress, we locked all the gates. We're staying isolated for 10 years, I think it is, and then we're going to come out, and if you can believe it, the plan is to wage war on the elves. Which should go a little better here. Now over here is our burial chamber, one of our burial chambers. You see we have several areas here. We'll go through them one at a time. This is the important chamber for Sarvesh, of course, our queen, and her husband, the king consort, Zephon. We also have burial, I guess these are just coffins, for other dwarves. These are just random dwarves because we needed more space. These are the burial chambers for important dwarves that don't rate a queen's burial chamber, a mausoleum. What does she need? What's it called? A grand mausoleum? Hang on. If I can remember how to do this. She wants a royal mausoleum. You see we got one of our former traders in here. Zuglar Kokolet. I forget who Zuglar Kokolet is, but I believe if I look at one of these statues, that will answer the question. An exceptionally designed image of Zuglar Weald Abbey, the dwarf, and dwarves in Koboldite, surrounded by the dwarves, relates to the appointment of the dwarf to the position of captain of the guard. There we go. Oh yes, our group is called the Cavernous Bodices as well. That's right, Zuglar was our former captain of the guard. I forget how that dwarf died. Zombie. Zombie was an interesting guy. Due to a glitch caused by something, I never quite figured out what, Zombie caught fire and refused to die for years. Was on fire for years, didn't catch anything else on fire, was in intense pain the entire time, and just refused to die. And then finally did, and that raided a tomb. Butcher, Nish the Butcher. We had an Etten invade the map early on during the fortress's history. Nish the Butcher and a couple of others were sent out from quarantine to deal with it because we were vulnerable at that time. We hadn't finished sealing up the fort, so the Etten could get in, and we sent out these three. Nish and where are the other? Ettenfoe. This is the dwarf that actually got the kill, I believe. Yes, there. Tislam Sculpture Cherished, the Plan of Couples, the Etten. See, right at the beginning. We started in 250. I don't remember the Evil Clam. That one would have come out of the caverns. And where's the other one? Amber Fist punched an amber giant to death. Firstborn was the first baby born in the fort. Godhand also punched a legendary beast to death. Burning. No, pardon me. Burning was the one that caught fire. Which one was Zombie? Burning was the one that caught fire. I think Zombie was the one, come to think of it, that got mutilated, like got all four of his limbs chopped off. Something like that. Here we go. Unbreakable. Yes, Unbreakable. Let there be peace throughout the world. Yeah, sure. So we had these three dwarves rush out. Headtaker just chopped the head off a Forgotten Beast, one hit. Done. We had these three dwarves rush out to fight this Etten. And Unbreakable's the first one to get there. And he was getting pounded on by this Etten. The Etten's just punching him, and he's not dying. Which was all the time that these other two needed. Unbreakable, Nish the Unbreakable, the only one whose name I remember. Pardon me, Nish the Butcher. Walks up to this Etten with an axe in her hands and just starts lopping pieces off of him. Doesn't kill him quickly, kills him a chunk at a time. It took a long, long time. And then Ettenfoe was the one that actually got the kill. The Butcher would later be killed defending the fortress from a hostile vampire, which was tragic, but these things happen. So these are the burial chambers for the important dwarves. Back here is what we're calling Gen Pop. This is where we stuck all the random dead until we ran out of room, and then we started putting them in the Queen's Mausoleum as decoration. Over here, this is the Queen's office and dining room. I think the King Consort has his own as well. Dungeon Master, Outpost Liaison. Redbeard, who is our... Redbeard is our chief brewer. Redbeard, named for one of my real-life friends, my first viewer, my original subscriber, who hooked me up with the microphone and the computer I'm using right now. So many thanks. Although I named this dwarf after him well before that. There's Ettenfoe, our manager, mayor. Down here, these are storage rooms, obviously, for arms and armor. Or this might just be armor storage, it looks like. Oh yes, of course. The Queen's Royal Bedchamber, which is just loaded with all kinds of extraneous decorations. A double bed at each end of the room. It's a beautiful thing. We'll come back to this in a moment. Over here, these are guild halls. for all of our assorted guilds. Initially, I was going to dig them each out like a theme room, and then I realized, oh no, we have a lot of guilds and a lot of dwarves. We're going to have to go rank and file with this, and so we have these very sterile lecture hall looking arrangements. But the dwarves love them. They're all happy. Crafting area, not much to say about this. This is the... Yeah, this is just another burial chamber. QSU 256 there on the top right, that was a designator I was using to keep track of who was in quarantine and for how long. That's a quarantined dwarf or Q dwarf from the summer of 256. So in summer of 257 they were allowed into the fort. And then, although apparently didn't make it, because they still had that tag, so apparently they died in quarantine and were buried here, which must have meant that corpse was just lying on the floor of the quarantine for a while. Yeah, crafting shops, not much to say. General storage over here. Our well room, which we needed because, of course, we were stuck inside, and if we go down, 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 we just keep going down, there's the water in the cavern. Another burial chamber over here. This one is for our animals. Well, our named animals. Obviously other animals just get butchered and eaten, but this is mostly for our war beasts, and it looks like we need more burial space for them. Main hallway, here's the hospital, here's the prison. We get a lot of use out of this. Constant tantrums. Oh boy, kitchen and lots of dining halls over here. Are any of these... I think one of these is actually designated as an inn. Or a tavern, rather. Doesn't matter. Here in the middle, I'm very proud of this. This is Ava's, our current overseer, and as you can see, legendary crafter. Legendary mason, in fact. As part of the quarantine thing, and as part of our security measure, you might notice all these little drawbridges that are just all over the fort. And each one of those... I think each pair of those, in the case of the residential halls, is controlled by a lever here. The overseer is locked in. Locked in, there we go. Oh, and that should... that can be pet passable, that's fine. Animals can come in. I guess. I don't know how that works. Anyway, the overseer's locked in here, not allowed to leave. We did finally start giving the overseer a crafting shop, although it's not currently loaded because that helps keep them from going crazy. We rotate out the overseer as necessary, but they've got a bedroom, they've got a private dining room, sort of. It's a bench and a table against a wall. They've got an office, and they've got a whole bunch of levers, each of which, there's a notation here, you see, to tell you which gate those control. And the idea is that we've got somebody immediately on hand who can pull levers at a moment's notice. Also, she's in a squad of one. There she is. The Geared Chain, which is a terribly appropriate name for a designated lever puller. Just to help her keep busy. She's also got a general purpose temple over here. And I don't know what this room is for. I was probably figuring out what to do with it. By the way, we have trophies everywhere. These are pieces of legendary beasts that have come at us from out of the caverns. This was a water monster. Okay, moving down. Oh, hang on a sec. Now, I know that there's more to this fort than this. Okay, this here, which is accessed from over there. That's why I couldn't find it, going down the main staircase, because it's not the main staircase. This is the bunker. As you can see, we have two barracks here, crafting rooms of various kinds, food preparation. Oh yeah, I put our leatherworks down here, and our clothing industry, just to have someplace to put them. Storage for things, dining area, food storage. I believe there's food down here? Yes, it's over here. In the event that the fortress is breached, or if we come under attack, we withdraw everybody into the bunker, close the door. I believe there's also a bunker control in the Overseer's chambers. As you can see, we've got alternating stonefall traps weapon traps and cage traps here. This has gone a long way toward keeping our dwarves safe this whole time. Although they don't like being penned up in here, obviously, especially not the queen. She's a little prissy, as befits her station. Moving on down. Long, long staircases in this fortress. Here's where we breach the cavern level. There's a dead olm. There's another drawbridge to seal things off. Alright. And here is our cavern level. Few things to explain here. Over here is Zan Roughness Weighted, creator of apparently a nameless artifact. That's interesting. You're a legendary weaponsmith. Yes, that's right. This guy's a weaponsmith. He's also a vampire. So in order to keep him separate from the rest of the fort, and also as insurance against us being annihilated at some point in the future, we've locked him up down here. He doesn't need to be fed or watered, so he's all good. But he's got really nice facilities. You can see he's got a bedroom, he's got a workshop, he's got some nice statues. What is this supposed to be? This is maybe supposed to be a statue garden, and I just never designated it. Dining room, training area, because of course we put him... Oh, we didn't put him in a... That's right, I took him out of his squad because he was spending too much time training and not enough time manufacturing weapons. This area here, this is also an airlock. I have him pile things up in here for us to then haul away. Over here is the smashing room. Dwarves dump garbage, we drop the drawbridge, stuff goes away because we just have too much garbage in this fort. Over here is sort of an execution chamber. Can I see what all's in here? Just a large rat and a helmet snake. We put various creatures in here. Throw other creatures in there, let them out, and let them fight. Here is our cave swallow breeding operation. And over here is Id Erishmanam. This guy's a legend. Constant tantrum spirals. Former captain of the guard, as I recall, but kept beating prisoners to death instead of taking them to prison even when we had cells. So I locked him up down here because he was also a hero of the fort, victor of many battles, and I was like, I don't want to just get rid of him, so we'll just lock him up down here with the cave swallows. Another burial chamber, by the way. This one is also for animals. Let's see. Here is our poor Gorlak farm. We captured some Gorlaks, and you can't add them to the fort. It seemed like a pity to kill them, so I've locked them up here in a bedroom. They're currently trapped in this cage because they kept escaping somehow. So eventually I'll have a dwarf come rig that up, and then we'll release them back into the room. And up here is our captive, that's the wrong button, our captive Etten, Leather Oracle the Confident, who wandered into a cage trap, and so we put her on display. Him on display. Cage traps here in case he gets out. I think I meant to carve viewing slits into these walls and just never got around to it. Just one more weird thing that we've got hanging around this fort. See, the caverns are a mess. There's silk everywhere. Just everywhere. Which has been real good for our clothing industry, which this fort does have. Oh yeah, backup farms down here that we're not really using. But I want them in case the surface gets overrun. Moving down, here's our mining area. Archery training ranges here. This fort goes through a lot of stone. I don't know what to tell you. Is there anything else here? That might be it. Nope. Aside from the cavern, that's it. Oh yeah, here's our back staircase. Well, pardon me, it's just the collection area for archery ammo that misses the targets. But you can see we've got several squads here. of trained dwarves ready to go. There are a lot of things here that I probably should have done with the Microfort and simply didn't, or didn't have enough space to do. I keep turning on airplane mode. Hope that's not getting caught on camera. I really like this fort. I'm pleased with how this is going. On the previous machine, this was running at a solid, like, 4 frames a second. On this one, I don't know, I can't tell because I don't have FPS turned on, apparently. So this is the fort. We'll come back here later on for an update, but there's too much going on here. I don't feel like I want to do a Let's Play, unless, of course, somebody wants me to. Oh, here's our temple, by the way. Our deity, Razot Basin Waxes the Lush. Love this guy. Spends all his time cursing people. Image of Razot Basin Waxes the Lush, the deity of agriculture, depicted as a male dwarf, a plump helmet, and a cave wheat. Razot Basin Waxes the Lush is striking a triumphant pose. Is raising the plump helmet and the cave wheat. Right, I did this. I made this one. Despite being a god of agriculture, huge jerk, constantly cursing people. Responsible for, like, half of the assorted monsters that are currently wandering the planet. It's a beautiful thing, and that is the main deity of our culture. These are just random statues, I think. But enough of our dwarves worship this guy that there isn't really a need for other temples. I should probably still build some other temples. Just in case. But this is Trumpetnut, man. I'm really proud of this fort. You can see that we're up here in the frozen north. I actually intended for this to be an ice fortress, and just missed because I put us here in the tundra instead of up here in the ice fields. But you can see that we've got goblin fortresses all around. They attack constantly and we just ignore them. Here are some dwarves. It's all dwarves and goblins up here. Oops. We have elves down here. Lots and lots of elves, and we will go deal with them. Don't you worry about that. It's going to be successful this time because this fort's much more secure. There are humans around, and they occasionally send traders, but I always have a hard time spotting humans on the map. So anyway, if anyone's interested, just let me know, and I will put out some content for Trumpetnut, but otherwise it's just going to be my little personal side project that I'll occasionally come back to. Oh yeah, body part storage. And that's Trumpetnut. More Dwarf Fortress content coming. We're not going to go back to the Microfort exactly, but we will be revisiting that world. And until then, I will see you folks next time. Birdman out!